So we actually select juniors in high school, and we work with low-income, no-income students to and through college. And so we work with them senior year. We provide application assistance, selection assistance, financial aid, and then we have a number of resources that we also provide while they're in college and see them through until they graduate. A number of our students are from the foster youth system, and so we're very familiar with a lot of the challenges that they have presented. A lot of our students have lived escaping getting into the system, and what I'm finding is that actually if they are in the system, they get a lot more resources in college than if they aren't. But of course, once they turn 18, there's no going back. But we do have a lot of students in our program that have no parents, or if they do have parents, they're extremely dysfunctional and they are basically non-parents. All of our students, the criteria for them to get into our program, they have to have a 3.0, they have to attend a 4-year university, and they have to have a family income of $50,000 or less, which most of them have such a low income. We leverage financial aid really well. And the foster youth, especially, they all have access to the Chafee grant, which is wonderful. Except for as my understanding, they don't get it as freshman year anymore. It starts as a sophomore year. We are gap fillers, and so we will provide any unmet need during the times that they're in school, so that we can reduce the amount of loans that they take. And then we have a number of resources. Really getting money from us is the smallest piece that we provide. We provide an internship program so that all of their summers are spent in meaningful employment, or they can go to summer school, or they can do a volunteer project, but they have to do something meaningful. We have career guidance. We send them to school with a laptop and a printer and bedding for school, and they have advising, which is the most successful part of our program, that helps them navigate the financial aid, the academics, and then as they meet their challenges, and they do all along the way, so that they can help them move them through that moment rather than just give up and say, I can't do it. We have a 90% success rate for graduation. So for the low income and the foster youth, we get them through school and they graduate. So we're really proud of that success.
I have a few questions. What counties do you guys serve?
All the Bay Area counties, so the 11 Bay Area county area.
Great. And then with this is something we've been kind of working on about increasing foster youth participation in these things. But what are the that's the cameras on people, they don't follow along.
Yeah.
With the financial requirements, so foster youth are automatically eligible, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's great.
They do have to be eligible for a 4-year university. So we don't have a program that speaks to the students that go to the 2-year. And I do also want to say for Cal has accepted more of our students and graduated more of our students than any other school in the entire country by dozens. So I'm a Cal alum. So, and the executive director is a Cal alum, and we've pulled in all of our Cal alum friends. If you're an empty nester, you're pulled into our program one way or another, whether you like it or not. So we have a huge Cal group that's involved in our program, so that's really cool.
Is there a way to specifically increase awareness among foster youth, I guess?
Well, we're limited in resources. We're a nonprofit, so it's really word of mouth. It's really associations that we develop partnerships. We would love to have more people help us with outreach, absolutely. And we would love to reach out more to this community as well, for sure. Do you have a question?
So maybe I missed this when you give your overview of the program, but you said something about empty nesters. So are they volunteers, or
Yes.
They're volunteers?
Yes.
Okay.
Pretty much, we all started as volunteers, and I've been with the program for 11 years. And when I first got involved, we were an all volunteer program. We weren't even a 501c3. So once we had a 501c3, we were still all volunteers. But now we have, in order to create a sustainable program, we had to start paying people for their time. And the executive director, Lynn Martin, is actually my freshman college roommate. So when I say I pulled everyone in, so yes, and now we have I think we have employees, 21 employees.
Yeah, 3 full-time and the rest
are part-time. But I can say pretty much categorically every single one started out as a volunteer first.
I have a question. I'm on the board of a group that's been going for 3 years now called SOAR, and it's Berkeley Camp here. It's called the Academy at Berkeley, whatever. Foster care kids. We should know each other for sure.
Yes,
you
we
know
should.
Diana Brown?
I'm sorry?
Diana Brown, she's the director of it. Okay, we'll have to make contact here because
I'll give you my
we
card.
send kids to Berkeley every summer for a week between their freshman and junior years. So
wonderful.
we're really complimentary in lots of ways. So
Okay.
Along those lines, beyond Emancipation, I don't know if you're familiar with them, they work with older former foster youth. They're having a convening of college access programs that are open to, particularly around increasing foster youth participation.
Okay.
So that'll be the
I've heard of Beyond Emancipation.
Yeah.
But they normally work with the older. We're really specific in that we take juniors in high school, or towards the end of their junior year. In fact, we're in our selection process right now.
Oh,
And
they're actually pulling together like up or down those, all the different.
okay, they are.
Because I
Okay.
think like a lot of these programs actually don't teach foster youth very often. And I think when I was talking about the financial requirement, I think some foster parents might not think their kids are eligible because they don't personally, the foster parents don't meet the eligibility requirements, but
Right.
it is the youth who has zero income. So,
Correct.
So it would be great if you guys
Yeah.
could join.
Okay. I'll give you my card.
That would be great.
You can list them all out, and I'll just follow up on all of them. Any other questions?
So do you only serve the Bay Area? Do you-
Yes.
Okay.
We're Bay Area definite specific. Someday maybe, but for the moment.
Well, what if the kids came from, per se, like, I know a kid that he came from Laney Community College, and he grew up in the Oakland School District foster care system, but he ended up going to Davis. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, they want to go to a school that's not in the Bay Area, but they're
Oh, they
like
can
junior-
go to college.
No, the high school students have to be in the Bay Area.
Okay,
Our students go all over the country.
Okay.
Yes.
To college.
From Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Boston College, to some of the smaller private liberal arts schools, to Morehouse College. I mean, literally all over the country they go to school.
So where is your base, or where can people find you?
Primarily on a website. We're virtual, so we can save as much money as office overhead. But I would say San Francisco is our primary location. That's where we meet as a group, and that's where the students come when we have workshops.
And Wendy Takuda was the co-founder of this organization before it was even called Students Rising Above. I think they called it Beating the Odds. So you might have seen some of the stories of some of these students over the last 13 or so years that's shown on, it was Cron when she was there, and now you'll see stories now being aired on CBS 5, San Francisco local news.
I'm sure you said that how many children each year are you serving?
Well, that's a great question, because when we first started, we were selecting 10. This last class, 2011, we selected 50, and this year we hope to select 55. So each year we're trying to increase based on fundraising.
You say you're selecting juniors in high school. Is it by number of credits, or is it by years spent in school?
It's A through G qualified, so as long as they have the correct number of classes to graduate and go to a 4-year school. We use the CSU requirements as the basic requirements. There's always exceptions, so I say 3.0. Right now, one of my favorite applicants that I just interviewed has 2.6. And we do take risks that way. So when we select our students, tell me when you want me to shut up. When we select our students, I'm really adamant about taking 30% at the high end of the GPA, 30% in the middle, and 30% at the low end, so that we can give a lot of the different students opportunities, because they can go to the CSUs. Those that may not be A through G, and we do take a couple of Hannah Boys every year, if you are familiar with Hannah Boys Center in Sonoma, boarding school for sort of wayward youth who are not always A through G qualified, but we know that we have a relationship with Holy Names, they'll take them. And we have a relationship with, believe it or not, Sonoma State will take them as well if they're not A through G. So we do take exceptions. It really does depend on the character of that particular individual. If they want to work with us, we pretty much try and work with them.
Wonderful. Well, thanks. I mean, it's
I
nice.
just wanted to mention one more thing to do with bringing in people, volunteers, and because once you kind of get to know this organization, it kind of gets in your blood, and you just start bringing in all your family, you know, just friends. You just can't help talking about it every time you go anywhere. But one of the volunteer opportunities that some of you might be interested in is every student has a mentor, and that's a volunteer position. It's a wonderful opportunity to get to know students. It's not a huge commitment, time or monetary, but it's just a really interesting, great opportunity. You can find out more about it on the website as well as looking for mentors.
And the website's studentsrisingabove.org.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you very much. Thank you for stopping by. And it was nice to hear. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Thank you. And you guys can stick around for hors d'oeuvres and pizza afterwards if you'd like. You're welcome to. So yeah, we got a lot of extra food. So you want to run this show?
Yeah. Can everybody sit around the table so we can hold hands? Just kidding.
Almost ready.
But no, just because we can. Cool.
Oh, what are you doing?
Actually, really lightheaded.
Okay.
That's why there's beer.
That's why there's beer, so what you just said.
Yeah.
Yeah, that helps with being lightheaded.
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I thought you said panic.
What's your name?
Well, it must be one
Yeah.
lightheaded.
Walter Mon? Okay, how did you hear about this?
Oh, man.
Oh, perfect, great. What? You have pardon? Oh, okay, wonderful. Afterward, or you take it? You teach a documentary class, right? Okay, cool, wonderful. Well, we're happy to have you share some drinks after we have a little discussion, I guess.
Yeah.
So thank you for stopping by. Okay.
Yeah. So to round out the semester, I just thought it'd be nice for us to go around a little bit and maybe reflect on what has been useful, the speakers that you liked. I mean, I know we're going to have your evaluations and everything as well, but just get a sense of, maybe what you thought you might get out of this class and what you ended up getting out of it, especially in a way that can help us for planning the next steps of when we teach it again. One of the things that Daniel and I have been talking about is what would be another good subject to cover. Is there another kind of whole kind of constellation, actually, of issues and events that, like concerning foster care, that you think would be worthwhile from your own reporting or expertise as social workers? And just a little reflection, and then we will enjoy ourselves merrily. So.
You mean topics of foster care? That would be good too.
I'd say topics in social welfare, or kind of generally, that kind of can span, because the way that I'm not my research is not in child welfare. And when Daniel initially was selling me on the idea of doing it specifically on this population, what he says was it's a fulcrum, that if you look at so many different systems, from criminal justice to homelessness and mental health, you see through the lens of foster care, you can understand how these issues can propagate and how they can develop. So we are just thinking of ways to kind of expand that, or other elements that could be enhanced to kind of cover even further the enormous, vast canyon of issues that are not covered right now. So we'll start with you, young lady.
Okay. Well, first of all, I just am really grateful for the experience with everyone here and for the speakers. I don't know of any other class where you get to like every week hear from an expert in the field, which is pretty cool. So I think that's been really valuable to, as hear from kind of a lecture format of, and somebody who is doing research or has really devoted their professional experience to this population and to these issues. I think that was really invaluable for me. So I really appreciate the opportunity to have gotten to engage in that and engage with y'all too. I think it being a cross school, cross concentration class has been really interesting. In terms of future directions, I would say maybe education, just given my own passion, I think pulling into just, education policy, and then you could pull in the ed school too, and social welfare, and bringing in some real, I think that affects everybody in the same way, and could have also a vast interest across multiple disciplines. One feedback in terms of the work that I would say would be trying to incorporate the edited versions into how we can, I don't know who to send my edits to or how to get those things published, really. And also getting back the greater good pieces.
Did Jason send them to you yet? He will shortly, yeah.
Yeah, and knowing what to do next steps with those, because I would love to really make those pieces.
Yeah.
That could happen. So, yeah, but I think in general it's been a really positive experience. I've really loved working with you guys, and so thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
I'll ditto all that. I really found the speakers to all be really interesting, and even though this is a population and all issues that I've spent probably far too much time thinking about, that having the different perspectives was really helpful we didn't spend too much time here. I spent too much time in real life worrying about, but that was helpful, having different perspectives and having different people from different schools engaging in it. I learned a lot getting the feedback on papers. I thought that was really helpful. Probably bug you again if I need help on editing. And yeah, I think so. That's all great. I guess potentially, you said about mental health would be a potential. I think there's a lot of policy stuff on the realignment right now, and there could be some interesting.
Mental health involving you, or mental health?
I think you could. I think if you were going to do it as a seminar, you'd probably do it for all.
Yeah.
And bring in psychology and some different departments that way.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting policy on since deinstitutionalization about kind of how we spend money in that system and who gets care.
Yeah, and then we should look at different things that are, that's more substance abuse, but different parts of that world, and I think the policy.
And it's similar in that you kind of only hear about severe mental illness when someone gets attacked or opens fire or there's something terrible that happens.
Right.
So.
Exactly. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. It's a pretty great social worky policy journalism party this fall semester. And I really especially liked all the journalist perspectives that came in and talked about all their really interesting work and getting to read different work. And as far as next year, I think it would be great to have one that was just on poverty, because I think it's can be such an overlooked, and it's so widespread, and so many interesting policy implications for that.
I learned so much in this class. I think there's a lot that you can apply from just the speakers. Just from them telling their story, and then you use that as a hook for whatever project you're doing outside. The best things, I think, is the journalists coming in and talking about how they got their story, because their stories made an impact. So now I'm more looking at how are these angles formed, and instead of there's issues, and how do we get it out there so more people can understand what's really going on. So that's basically what I got out of this class. The interviewing, I think it's also given me a lot of courage with interviewing people, because with our guests being actual, people in the field, and judges, actual foster kids, actual administrators. They're telling you what the problem is, and then being out in the field, it helps when you're writing stories. So thank you so much.
And I came late, but I'm really grateful that you guys let me join so late into the semester. But I mean, I think what I cherish most is just seeing your different perspectives, because I can always talk to advocates. That's my job. I can always talk to people who already have a say, but I don't get a chance to listen from you guys because we just don't have that. Like, the schools are not built to do that. So what I cherish more is just your own perspectives with working with youth directly, and that's what I'll take with me wherever I go. So thank you for sharing that.
Any directions? I mean, we're gonna like if we're thinking about the next stage.
I would agree with her. Poverty is like a huge issue. I was also thinking a lot elderly abuse. That would be something that I feel like a lot of people would be interested in, especially since there have been a couple of stories that have really documented pretty bad abuses. That I feel like this could be an area where not a lot of coverage has been done.
I just came in late, but I'm guessing we're talking about and what we hope to go in the direction for this kind of ideas about journalism, social change.
Yeah.
So I'd say something I really enjoyed about this class is, getting to hear a lot from you all. I'm very inexperienced in terms of this field, foster youth, everything to do with journalism. Basically all the topics we covered. So every class has been really eye-opening for me. It's been amazing to really hear from students in the class and the speakers alike. It's been a fantastic experience, and definitely one that I'm going to take. I got a lot from. In terms of directions forward, I think with elderly abuse and poverty are definitely amazing things to explore with journalism. And I think that I think there are a lot of room to target specific groups. Foster children is a very broad envelope. We're looking at specific groups in that foster youth, maybe different age groups. There's a lot of potential for kind of narrowing the gap in terms of how specific legislation is affecting those groups. So that's what I would say.
Cycle back to you, yeah.
Okay. I really enjoyed this class. I felt like I learned a lot. Even coming in with a little bit, I feel like I learned so much on realignment and just so many other issues that I've never really been exposed to. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to do that. Are you looking for like specific things that you want to work that journalism could?
Or that this class, any idea?
If we did another iteration of this.
Or like 25 more.
So then, what else should we be looking at?
Yeah, I think something that I'm really passionate about, but I don't think I got to explore really was over medication, over medicating histories.
That goes to mental illness,
That goes to mental health.
Yeah, and I feel like that's something I wanted to do a paper on, but I just never really got to it. And then the C-sec population, sexually, or commercial.
The Missy.
Yeah, is that C-sec?
Sexually
I think that's, commercially sexually exploited.
Commercially sexually exploited.
I think that's an area that can be honed on to, and just it just locks with foster care a lot.
Awesome.
I have really enjoyed this class. It's probably one of the best classes I've taken in the 2 years that I've been here at Berkeley. I thought it was a really great overview for somebody from the public policy school who really had no introduction to the foster care system. For me, the balance of speakers was great, and I liked that there were a lot of really current issues that were explored, things that are in the news right now. I think in terms of, I agree with the mental health piece, that would be a great place to develop. And speaking from a policy perspective, I think it would be interesting to have some comparisons of systems in different states and kind of see where experiments are happening, since I think the systems vary. It also, I think, would be good to have and I think you guys have talked about maybe doing this in the early part of the course, having a journalism 101 session. Maybe it could be optional because some of the students come from the journalism school. Maybe there could just be
maybe they can teach
session.
it.
Yeah. Sorry?
Maybe they can teach it.
That's a good idea too, a workshop. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, same. I really enjoyed this class. I guess I really like the different perspectives from different organizations, but I especially enjoyed when we had the foster youth come in to share her experience. I think that was pretty powerful for all of us. So I think whenever possible to bring clients that I guess for social workers that we would serve, to hear their story, their perspective. It's very beneficial. At least for me, I know I learned a lot. I thought I came in with some knowledge about foster care, but I'm like, wow, there's so much out there. Which is great. And yeah, definitely the journalism 101, intro or whatever you want to call it, that'd be very helpful. In terms of new direction, I mean, for me, I guess it would be like immigration, just because I know that social welfare or social workers program doesn't really cover it, but definitely education and poverty will be. It seems like very interesting topics right there. I think those two probably leading. So I would say those.
The guest lectures were amazing. I really enjoyed. I didn't realize kind of the expertise and the influence that some of the folks had, especially the journalist folks. So that was pretty amazing, and I really enjoyed it. And hearing everyone's perspectives, and in the foster youth, that was amazing. I've never knowingly interacted with foster youth, so that was interesting, or been able to hear from them. I would say I would echo the journalism 101. One particular format would be an optional extra credit, because I feel like I would also personally like to explore new media, given social media, video production, things like that, because that seems like that's emerging as the influential tool above and beyond writing. So I think that would be really important in terms of an issue. Maybe along the lines of poverty, but like even framing it maybe as the safety net, because that's something that a lot of people from a span of ideological frameworks think is a role of government, is the safety net. And I personally now I see that eroding, and also defining like what that is and what it should be doing and that kind of stuff. And I wouldn't mind writing at a national and state level too. I think that would be really interesting. I'm doing pieces, writing, different media pieces at both levels. So.
I mean, everybody said everything. Okay, so for someone that has undiagnosed ADD, I actually love this class because it kept me interested the entire time. It was information overload at times, but I think it was good information overload. And it was always something that I could look back to in my notes, and like it'll pop up in another class, or it would always come up in all my other professors would be like, Tanya, everything is about foster care. But it makes a connection. So I thought it was really, really good. I enjoyed everyone. Jennifer Lopez was, I think, my absolute favorite. I just think she made the most of the impact, and she was just so memorable. And that topic was so memorable. For the journalism 101, one thing that I thought would have really been well for me is after each topic, if we had an assignment where we actually had to write an article based on that. So for the child abuse, you have an article due the following week on that topic.
With the quotes from the class.
And then find outside, to do each one to make sure you're reinforcing it and understanding everything. That I thought that would have helped me even on some topics to make sure I got a full understanding of it.
Yeah, we need to give you guys more units, but yeah, that's a good idea. We need to give you 35 units.
The practice is so important.
So, but I really enjoyed the listening to the different. Not even the different, but just understanding the social work perspective. Because coming in as a journalist, you have this mindset of how social workers are, and it kind of gave me a better understanding of where you guys are coming from, and maybe how to approach you differently when trying to get whatever I need to get for a story or whatever. So I thought, to me, that was the most beneficial one of the most beneficial things. Another topic that I think would be really interesting goes along the lines of poverty, and it just comes from a different workshop that I attended. But they were just talking about realignment and how TANF, the welfare, and how politicians think they put these policies in place thinking 30 years in advance, and here it is 30 years later, and yet we're still having the same issue, and now they're aligning again to try to get another program that's going to be another 30 years, but what's going to happen when we get to that 30 years and it's passed? So I think something along that line of, like, I don't know, social services or something that deals with something like that. It deals with poverty too, but yeah, that's my only topic. But I love this class. I would take it again in a heartbeat.
Okay, my turn. Okay. Now that you've talked, I have thoughts.
Just not
I told you, I've been really lightheaded for the last hour. I don't know what's going on. Okay. So, I mean, I think that this is an excellent class, and I think that the idea of, I think that any time where you can combine disciplines can be really powerful. What's interesting for me coming from the public policy program is that the focus of our school is essentially like policy analysis, and you don't actually end up learning about a lot of policies. So I would consider myself to be a youth policy person. That's where my passion is at. But I also don't feel like I have a breadth or depth of knowledge about youth policies. If I am faced with okay, this is a situation, Hope is my only other kind of ally in this, because she's from my program, obviously, but, we can go through and break down if we're faced with something and basically know how to analyze that policy or that problem then, but we just don't have the face sort of information, the base information for it. So to me, actually, along the lines of a Journalism 101, I felt like a lot of things that were brought up in this class, a lot of the different policies, I'm looking at Anna then being you're gonna have to explain that to me later because I don't know enough about these policies. So I kind of also felt potentially we needed not only Journalism 101 at the beginning, but also topic 101 at the beginning. This is so we're gonna be focusing on foster care over the the foster care 101 that we need just to have a base because I kind of felt as the speakers come in, as we did the readings, I'm starting to get a sense, but it's piecemeal. It's not. I didn't have a foundation coming into it, and then I kind of had to just try and add on this really shaky, almost non-existent base, if that makes some sense. So, I think that all of us, I know the social welfare people come in with obviously a lot more social welfare, foster care knowledge or base than the rest of us. But I think if you, regardless of what topic you guys do this with next time, I think just sort of prioritizing, okay, for anybody coming into this class without really any background knowledge on this on the policies that pertain to this issue, what do they need to know? Just to have something to build on. And then I would say that one of the things I really appreciate is that I was able to, just your flexibility as far as my presence in this class and my being able to say to you, I want to be here, but I can't give, just that you guys were very flexible as far as, be here, we want you here, but also we understand you for that commitment. So I just think flexibility with the units and all of that was really lovely. And yeah, I think that as far as the topics are concerned, you can go sort of as broad or as narrow as you want, but again, I think that particularly if it is more narrowly tailored, I think that's especially when you have to do all right, let's break down the basics for everybody going into it.
Cool. Final thoughts? Future directions?
Final thoughts. It's really, I really appreciate all your input.
Yeah.
It really helps guide things moving forward. And I think, for instance, we're just talking the Knight Digital Media Center here, and what we want to do is incorporate a real boot camp for the fellows. So, leading into a multimedia boot camp for the fellows. But with this idea also about creating a more rigorous policy, and I mean, boy, the thing I guess I'm taking away is you're talking about the eroding safety net, and poverty comes up and all these different things. And this notion that politicians can't even think, it's not that they were thinking 30 years ahead. They were thinking 3 months ahead or 3 years ahead or whenever their thing was. And the thing is we're in a we are in a time, I think, when we lack real long-term vision on what we need to do for not only kids, but then to also make sure that things are okay for all of us. And I think that what I'm happy about is that it's clear that you guys have the interest to do all that stuff, and it just feels very nice that there are a room full of people who are dedicated to making this whole thing better, because we need it. And thank you for giving this thing a shot. That's my last thought.
There we go. I think I told you guys in the very beginning that this class brings together the two things that mean the most to me, which really is social welfare and then getting that message out in a meaningful way, journalism. And I'd actually forgotten about the second part. I've been so steeped in writing and reading and preparing for a qualifying exam, and forgot that what I was learning, one of the most important parts about it wasn't if my findings were significant, but if it meant anything to anyone, because that's actually how things change. I mean, if there's no change of consciousness, then what does it matter if my findings are really great and I get peer-reviewed journal articles and my colleagues slap me on the back? It really doesn't mean a whole lot without both kind of this recognition that, especially if you're receiving funding from the government or from state taxes, it's your responsibility to also give back. And as a social worker, clinically, and as a social worker, as a researcher, I know how hard it is when you have a commitment and a depth of feeling towards the people you serve and a real fear of exploiting that relationship. And yet, I find that tension to be really useful. That you care so much about these people, that you don't want to kind of in some ways represent them poorly, you don't want to talk to the media, you don't necessarily want to write about these issues, and yet you have such great access, you have such intimate knowledge, and it's such a responsibility. And we're not taught this in school at any point, that our knowledge should kind of give us the responsibility to do something about it. But I think that this class reminds us how important the media is, how much it can shape policy, how many people dedicate their lives to trying to cover these issues well, and what it means to have meaningful coverage and balanced coverage. It's so important. I mean, you can do a lot of good in this world, and I really do think that a very important way to do good is to kind of make these stories understandable and digestible and well known for the general public. It's huge and awesome. And we had a email from Yali, who you guys remember presented here. Maybe some of you talked to her, and I wish I'd printed it out. She just said coming to this class and describing her experience was so important for her, and it was great to be heard, and she loved everyone who followed up with her and wrote stories, and it was great. So it was great for you guys, it was great for us, it was great for our presenters. So we're I think, this was a crazy dream for Daniel and I, and our first, as you guys remember from the first night, we had a lot of high hopes about this really intricate schedule and how everything would work. And
Earth, Wind, Fire. Oh, Earth, Wind, and Fire. That really happened. That really happened. That really happened.
Live changes.
And I feel really successful. I think that this class was so awesome. I learned a whole lot about the child welfare system, and I think that both of us learned how important this is and meaningful it is. And you guys are like the pioneer class, so you got to keep in touch. When we have our 10-year reunion, we're gonna be like, we were the first ones. So yeah, I thank you guys a lot for showing up, quite literally. So yeah, it's been awesome.